back to the Private Record. We got a special episode for you guys today. Not only does our guest on this episode have a dangly earring just like me, which is a big deal. We haven't had a single guest who has a dangly earring just like me. And, this is our first, and I like to make a big deal out of every first. This is also our first guest that, I don't know, I guess I would classify it as and this is no exaggeration. This story, his name is Bode. It's a medical miracle. This dude is a living, walking, breathing medical miracle. He's still young. I think he's only 19 right now. But when he was 14, I believe, obviously I'm a little foggy on the details because the story itself is just crazy. But yeah, he fell off a trampoline in a freak accident, broke his spine, and suffered something that, as he tells it, no one else in the world has recovered from besides him. Don't know what else to say. It's what he said, okay? And I'm not one to question him because I don't know about these things. But the story itself is wild. Story about what it took from him, what it took from his family, the clawing back to health, the whole road back to recovery is just absolutely mind-blowing. This dude's going to blow your mind. His story's going to blow your mind. It blew my mind. It starts out very harrowing and upsetting and ends up extremely inspiring and happy. So I hope you like it as much as I liked doing it. Bode's such a likable guy. He's a very, very energetic young man in the world. I was going to say he reminds me of myself, but he doesn't because I was never a very, very energetic young man in the world. But he's a very likable dude, like I said. So I hope you like him as much as I did. If you want to be a guest on the show, go to theprivaterecord.com and submit yourself and your story as a potential guest. We look forward to hearing from you. We've been getting so many submissions lately, and I love them. I love reading them. We're trying to get to as many as we can. If we're backed up and haven't gotten back to you, I personally apologize, but we will, I promise. You guys got the goods. You keep coming with the goods. We'll keep getting back to you about the goods. Obviously follow us on socials at The Private Record, Instagram, TikTok. On YouTube, subscribe to our channel at The Private Record. It means the world to me when you do that. Like this video if you do indeed like it. Comment on this video if you have something to say about it, and I know you do, because Bode's a dashing, handsome young fellow, and he almost died. Don't you have something to say about that? Come on. And please, of course, share with your friends. It means a lot to me when you do that. I want to do this show forever, as I always say. And the best way to make that happen is for more people to listen to it and watch it. So thank you very much for sharing with everybody that you know. I love you, as you also know. And I love doing this. And I can't get enough. So I will indeed see you again very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Private Record. Very excited, and particularly excited to hear this story, actually. But why don't you first introduce yourself and tell us the headline or the genre of your story, however you want to frame it.
For sure. Yeah, sweet. So my name is Bode Miller. I'm 18. I'm a freshman at the University of Vermont. And when I was 14, I broke my neck and almost died.
That is a good headline, a gripping headline. I'm sure that's going to make people say, oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. Let's just jump right in then. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my story, so I'm originally from right outside of Philadelphia. And my story takes place in Lancaster, which is probably about an hour west of Philly. And I'm at my cousin's house.
Okay.
With my older brother and my two cousins. They're all older than me. And this is over Labor Day weekend, so we're talking August. The specific date's August 31st, 2019. And this is like right pre-COVID.
Okay.
And the game plan originally was we were going to go out on my aunt and cousin's boat for the day. But so we woke up, they were like making sandwiches, whatnot. So we had time to kill. And me and my cousins and my brother went out to go fuck around on the trampoline.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, like I was very comfortable. I took pride in my athleticism. I could do a backflip on the ground. So like, it wasn't a big deal, but
Mm-hmm.
I was on the trampoline and we were jumping and it was just me on the trampoline. And I had the idea that my brother should throw a football and I should catch it while also doing a backflip.
Mm.
And I did it the first time, landed it, nothing went wrong really. Threw it back, did it a second time, and then the third time, right before we were about to leave for the boat, it wasn't the best pass in the world, but I thought that I could still get to it. So I jumped up, I tried to catch it, I was in the air, and I got super disoriented. And the next thing I know is I literally cannot breathe, I cannot move. I'm trying to scream for my life, and I hear they're telling me that like you're okay, and I remember not like literally I thought I was I was dying, like I could not move, I could not feel where my arms were,
Oh my
and
God, dude.
yeah, so I broke my C4 and C5 vertebrae in my neck. I don't know if you can see the scar, but I had surgery.
Okay,
I'll get
yeah.
it. I'll get into that. I'll get into that. But I remember like so your C4, the nerves that connect your C4 connect your diaphragm and your triceps. So my diaphragm was paralyzed, so I could not breathe.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah. Do you have any questions so far before I keep going?
I actually do. So I
Yeah,
mean,
please go for it.
I've like heard people tell stories like this, and I've read stories about this kind of thing happening to people, not that exactly, but
Hmm.
things like it.
Right. For
And
sure.
people say I like they'll say a version of what you said. I thought I was
Mm-hmm.
dead. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't move. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to scream, but I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's like probably somewhat of a blur to some degree, but like when you say that, like what do you mean? Like what are you feeling? Are you just feeling nothing
That
or
is
what?
such a good question. That is such a good question. So yeah, there is. It's so hard to
Yeah.
like comprehend, but you are
Yeah.
getting no signals to your brain through your body, and that is a feeling that it's not nothing.
Right.
But also, I had broken my neck, and the injury is a spinal cord injury, right? Because you can break your neck and not be paralyzed. I'm sure you've heard of people do
Right.
that.
Of course. Yeah.
But the injury is spinal cord injury, right? So that is your central nervous system that dictates everything from you sweating to you going to the bathroom to you walking to you moving. It
Hmm.
it does it all. And I think that's what's super confusing about my injuries because it's all internal, right? Because you look at me now and you're like, oh, it's fine, like you wouldn't know, but
You
I
would not
still
know.
suffer
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
You would not. Yeah, if you walked by me down the street, you wouldn't even your brain
Right.
wouldn't pick up on anything.
Yeah.
Which is why my recovery is so rare. But yeah. So to get back to your original question, um, it is it. I literally like so. The last thing I remember before I had my out of body experience, which we can get into,
Hmm.
was I remember thinking, okay, I'll be okay if I know where my like positionally where my arms are in my body. Like I remember thinking, I thought I felt weight on my chest of my arm like laying on my chest,
Okay.
but then I saw the paramedic. My right arm was dislocated. And I didn't know this. And I saw the paramedic pick up my arm and put it over my chest, and I could not feel anything. Like I was watching my own body move, and I could not. My brain wasn't comprehending the information. And that's when I
Dude,
was like,
what?
yeah. That's when I was like, oh, like I'm fucked up. Like there's something that's super fucking wrong.
So you're it's weird because your brain and body are so connected, but
So connected.
it's almost as if your brain is now not connected to your body.
Absolutely.
Your consciousness is just located where your eyes are, and you're
100%.
witnessing your body be disconnected to whatever you are.
It's the closest you could be to being decapitated and alive.
Right.
Like it was
And
like that's what it felt like.
and in terms of physical sensation, is it that you're
Mhm.
not feeling anything, or are you in immense pain?
So the only thing I could feel was my neck. I remember
Uh-huh.
being apparently the one thing that I kept trying to say was my neck hurts, my neck really hurts, like my neck really
Okay.
hurts.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah. So I remember saying that, and then yeah, but so that I felt immense pain here, and then all of a sudden we can get into my out of body experience here if you'd
Yeah,
like.
please. If that's what's next, let's
Um,
do it. Yeah.
for sure. Well, obviously this is deeply traumatic, and I've done tons of therapy for it, so I don't mind talking about it now.
Okay.
But I remember, yeah. So the next thing, this is the part that I actually think is the most fascinating about my
Mm-hmm.
whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
The next part I remember is dying. Like it was, I died. I
Mm-hmm.
literally died. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't breathing. I wasn't breathing for up to 8 minutes before the paramedics got there because, like I
Oh
said, it's
my
pretty rural.
God.
8 minutes without breathing. And I remember just coming out of my body, and I remember being this ball of like energy.
Uh-huh.
Like there was no body, there was no restrictions of where I could move. And I would probably say it's 50 to 75 feet above my body, like bird's eye view looking directly down. I
Oh,
remember
okay.
hearing yeah. I was like looking directly down at my body. I was watching the paramedics move me. I was watching
Whoa.
myself get on a stretcher. Yeah. cut me off. Feel free to cut me off, by the way, if you have any questions during this whole time.
So just to clarify, you
Absolutely.
when you say you're out of your body,
Mhm.
obviously we see with our eyes. So I'm not asking you literally what was happening, but in your state of consciousness at the moment, what you're perceiving is you are just obviously not your body anymore, but
Mhm,
somehow
mhm.
able to see down at your body.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
what's
so,
happening
like,
to it? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, and I couldn't feel anything. It wasn't like I was feeling it. Like, I was not in my body. I was literally my soul,
Got it.
if you wanna call it that.
Sure. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like this energy being, and, yeah, so I was this energy being, and, let's see, I oh, yeah, this was the craziest part. So I remember literally, like, it's not like I was like, because when some people have an out of bad experience, they like see their past relatives, they meet God, if you want to
Mhm.
call it that. Mine wasn't quite like that. But I remember having the knowledge and being and just knowing, like I knew for a fact, I died. I'm dead.
Wow.
This is it for me. But the most fascinating part is it was so blissful. It
Mm.
wasn't sad. It wasn't all my anxiety left my body. It was not sad. It was not stressful. It was honestly, it was beautiful.
Mm.
It was super blissful. It felt very good. I wasn't sad that I had died at a young age. I
Mm.
just knew that this was what was meant for me. I died.
Whoa.
Um, and then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital post surgery.
Mm.
So the story and the way it works is obviously I got ambulance quickly to Lancaster General Hospital.
Mhm.
They put a breathing tube. I was intubated, and then medevaced me. They flew me in a helicopter to Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania, or Philadelphia rather, and that's where I had my surgery.
Mm. Okay. So
Yeah,
you're rushed, obviously, as fast as possible into emergency surgery.
correct.
And then obviously you're unaware of this entirely, but you
Mhm.
have what did they consider it a successful surgery at that stage? Like
Yeah,
what is even the bar of success? Like what's happening now? Yeah.
that's a great question. Yeah, so when we got to Lancaster General, I'm going to start there, and I'll
Okay.
totally get right into that question. We got to Lancaster General because this ties in. Um, the nurse said that I would be very very lucky if I survived the helicopter ride. Um,
Just the ride.
just the ride, let
Okay.
alone the surgery. And then
Yeah.
this is so funny because my neurosurgeon, he's kind of one of those guys. Like I don't know, in my experience, doctors can have a hard time being very personable, especially at that
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my neurosurgeon right before I went to surgery told my mom like I'm gonna try my best to save his life, but if I can't, then like you can't blame me. And then if I do, he'll never walk or feel anything from his neck down ever again. Like you can't even have that expectation.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah, obviously my mom's a fucking mess, as you know, moms.
Of course, who wouldn't be? I mean,
Yeah,
dude, if I didn't
yeah,
even know you and I found you like that and rushed you to the hospital and the doctor told me
yeah.
that, I would be devastated for you. Like
Devastated. Oh,
that's just
it's
not a
yeah.
it's just it's like a mind-breaking thing to even consider for a young
Oh,
man, let alone
absolutely.
just anybody, even if the old man, old woman, who cares, That's just
Totally.
terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um
Yeah,
so so obviously and so that's because of the severity of the injury, right? Not because of
correct.
okay, yeah, all right.
Correct. And at that point, so the way spinal cord injuries work is there's complete spinal cord injuries, which means the bone severs the spinal
Mhm,
cord completely, detaches
mhm,
it top and bottom, which
mhm.
there is literally no hope. Like
Right,
unless
right,
like we're kind of starting to move to like stem cells and that's maybe happening, but that like not even now, like you're paralyzed. There's
right.
nothing you can do. Rehab
Yes,
doesn't do anything.
right.
And then there's incomplete, which is what mine is, which is it just is like a contusion or a bruise. Um, and they don't know that obviously without the X-ray, without the surgery. So that's kind of why he said that. But
Ah,
luckily, mine was incomplete, meaning not severed all the way.
right.
And I got through the injury. I was intubated, and I survived, obviously,
Mhm.
which is great. Um, but yeah, and then the next thing I remember is waking up after the surgery, very confused. And then with breathing tubes, I wasn't breathing on my own yet. Obviously, my diaphragm was still paralyzed, and I
Yeah.
couldn't talk. I remember being so scared that I couldn't talk
Mhm.
because I thought I lost my like I thought I was a mute now for the rest of my life because nobody told me
And
that, which was
on
funny.
top of that, this probably is an obvious question, but just for complete clarity, you
No,
also
please,
cannot move, correct?
at all. I
Okay.
can't move or feel any sensation in my body. Like nurses are coming in and doing these neurological tests that they have to do like every hour to see my status, which is like wiggle your feet. Can you feel where I'm touching? What does this feel like? Is it sharp? Is this hot? Nothing. Absolutely nothing right now.
Zero, nothing, zero feelings anywhere on your body entirely.
Anywhere entirely until you get to like right around my collarbones and my neck. There I can, it's like very faint. It almost
Oh
feels like
my
somebody's touching you
God.
with, yeah, it almost, the best way I can describe it is it almost feels like somebody's rubbing like a, like a cotton ball, something really soft.
Yep.
You know how like something, if your body doesn't always pick up on it all the way and you're like,
Yep.
oh, is that, it kind of feels like that.
Yeah, it's like a feather on your back of your
It's
neck
like
or something.
totally,
Yeah,
totally,
yeah, yeah.
totally. Like you don't pick
Yeah.
up on it at first, but then every now and then you're like, oh, I felt that.
Right.
It feels like
Yeah.
that. It
Oh
feels
my
like that.
God. So are
Yeah.
you, I don't, you're 14, so maybe this doesn't even apply, but like
Hmm.
that, you just telling me that
Hmm.
instills so much anxiety in me. Just the idea of it, what that might feel like, what the
Oh,
implications of that would be mentally and
absolutely.
emotionally. Where are you
Totally.
even like, again, you're only 14, so where are
Yeah.
you on the spectrum of catastrophizing, anxiety ridden? Like what's going on with you internally?
I was a fucking train wreck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
horrible. They had me on immense Valium, which is an anxiety
Mhm,
relieving drug, and fentanyl. But yeah, I remember um, I kept so the way that I would communicate is because I could only move my eyes. It was the only
mhm,
part of my body I can move.
mhm.
Oh yeah. So I remember like the doctors would come in and they would test me and they would tell me all these things. And the only thing I could do was cry. That was all I had control over. So
My
I would
God.
just be crying. I was like, and the thing is like I'm all like me, my soul, who I am, is all the way still in here.
Well,
So
that's the
it's
thing I
me
think that,
trapped in my body.
yeah,
I'm like in jail in my body.
that's what causes such anxiety. Because
Yeah.
this sounds almost backwards in a way, but I think if you think about it all the way through, it makes sense. Like it would almost be better if your mind was fucked up too, because then you
Yeah.
wouldn't have to think any of it through. You would just be all uniformly messed up, and you could work your way
Yes.
back ostensibly together with
Yes.
mind, you know. But you're,
Yes.
as you
Absolutely.
said, you're in jail up here, so to
Totally.
speak. That's just fucking,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember thinking like if I don't get any better from this status, like I want like this is kind of heavy. So trigger warning, you can put this in. Like
Yeah.
I want to kill myself. Like
Yeah.
I do not want to be alive in
Yes.
this
Yes.
status.
I totally get
Um
that. I totally
yeah.
get that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was super, super tough, especially because like I said, like a lot of my self-love and pride and outward external love and pride that I was getting was through my athleticism ability
Mm.
between lacrosse and surfing. So it just like total identity crisis because I mean, just in the last couple months I've gotten back to lacrosse. So like I had to totally
Wow.
find love and passion in life through a different
Yeah.
outsource,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
I
we
mean,
can
at
move into.
14,
Yeah,
so much of your body is tied up in your physical existence. You know, your mental and
absolutely.
emotional existence is so early that you are so tied to yourself physically and whatever that is and or isn't, you know.
Right.
But the fact
Absolutely.
you just get it snatched like that is it's totally unthinkable for someone who hasn't been through it. This is why I have the questions I have. But
No, please.
anyway, yeah. So please continue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and like I always say, honestly, to people who ask me, the mental and emotional side of this was just as hard, if not harder, than the physical,
Yeah. Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
And that's what people trip up about a lot because, I mean, like I also have a ton of footage and videos that of me rehabbing and me in the hospital. If you would somehow want them to put
Yeah,
up or maybe
totally.
on a
Please,
website,
you have the email.
I would.
Send them. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
will, because you can like simultaneously put up the screen of like me intubated and what that looked like, and
Yeah,
for viewers, whatever.
totally. Yeah.
But yeah, I've done immense therapy, and I'm even starting to do with. She's not technically a therapist, but she's like a life coach, if you could call her that. Body work, where I move energy through my
Mm-hmm.
body, which has
Mm-hmm.
been helping me a lot. So that's been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Good.
But yeah, thank you. Oh man, but yeah, so we could. Do you want me to talk about me in the hospital more, like what rehab
Yeah.
looked
I mean,
like?
I guess,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
So like
let's.
both you tell the story as it happened, and then we'll
Mhm,
navigate it as we go, like sort of
for
checking
sure.
in with where you were at mentally as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, and please feel free to cut me off anytime, like, ask questions. Um, yeah, so I'm in the hospital, I'm in CHOP, that's what Children's Hospital
Mm.
Philadelphia stands for. So I'm in CHOP, and, I I could not sit up. So, like, the goal is the way spinal cord injuries work is the first like 3 months, um, immense swelling around the spinal cord happens because nothing
Mm,
is ever supposed to touch your spinal cord. So when it happens, your body's like, "What the fuck is happening?" and it doesn't know how to
right,
handle it.
right.
Um, so it's very hard to see where somebody's at within the first 3 months, like literally physically. Um, so it's tough. And luckily, I start making immense, like crazy, unheard of progress,
Mm,
which was awesome. But it was a very dehumanizing experience,
hmm.
the whole thing, because I can't move at all. So the way that you have to get me in my wheelchair is literally there's a crane attached to the ceiling, and they come and they scoop this like it almost looks like a sack around under my butt, and they have to
Hmm.
like literally pull me up and drop me in like I'm cargo out of a crane into a
Yeah,
wheelchair, so
yeah,
I can go to therapy. So the whole thing is super dehumanizing. I'm in a diaper because I cannot control my bowel and bladder at all.
yeah.
So that's super tough. Um, and
And this,
yeah,
are you like, what's your sleep schedule like? What's your waking schedule like?
oh, that's a great question. Because that's a great question for many reasons because sleep is so important to heal your body, as you
Yeah,
know. But you just lying on your back all day,
you don't get
every day,
tired.
you don't get tired.
Yeah,
Exactly. But also your skin starts to get blistery,
yeah,
so they
yeah,
have to
yeah.
continuously move you throughout the
Hmm.
night. So I'm getting max 2 hours of sleep, in intervals. So I'll get like 2 hours of sleep. A nurse will come wake me up, move me a little bit so my skin
Wow.
doesn't get all fucked up, and then I'll have to try and fall back asleep. But I won't because I'm in immense pain, and then I have to
Hmm.
get more fentanyl. It's like a whole cycle of you don't ever sleep in the first like 3-4 weeks of the injury.
Wow.
On top of trying to rehab all day, it's just
And
miserable.
so again, the pain is just all centered around your neck, correct? And
Correct.
depending
Right
upon
now,
how they
yeah.
move you, it hurts
hmm
or doesn't hurt, depending upon the position you're in.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say around like the third week mark is when I start to able to feel my body. I cannot move it, but I
Okay.
start to get some sensation back.
Okay.
And getting nerve sensation back is super, super painful. It feels
Mm.
like you're on fire
Mm.
because the first sensation that goes to your brain is heat. So
Ah.
it literally feels like my whole body's on fire, but like at the same time, it's like amazing news
Yeah, I
because
mean,
that shouldn't be happening.
you're ecstatic mentally and emotionally,
Mhm.
but the physical pain is
Immense.
probably, yeah, yeah.
Super immense, yeah. Um, so that was super, super exciting, and then that's when they started really trying to rehab me as much as possible. At this point, I could maybe move my left arm a little bit and a little bit in the left shoulder, but they were super thrilled about that. I couldn't feel or move anything in my lower extremities, because I mean, it
And
makes sense when you think about it, because your nerves travel the farthest to your feet, so, like,
right.
it's harder.
Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, so
Yeah,
are you and the people around you, you mentioned your mother, I'm sure obviously there's many more people who
absolutely,
are invested in your return to health.
for sure.
Are what is like you seem like a very sensitive, intuitive young man. Is there like
No, thank
a
you.
vibe shift you're sensing as you're starting to get the nerve feelings back? Like, are you like, because we feed off of that energy when we see our own mother be excited for us and knowing that something good is happening, you feel good. And then that kind of bounces off of you and it increases. Is there anything like that happening in that room?
Absolutely. Like, there was only one way to be, and that was like, I gotta get through this.
Yeah.
Like, there was no other option. Like, that was the
Yeah.
attitude the whole time. It's like, I'm fighting for my life. And my mom, like you said, like you almost nailed it. Like, my mom
Yeah.
was super supportive.
Yeah.
It was all positive. It was all, you're doing so good. Like,
Yeah.
this is such a big improvement. And the vibe for sure started to pick up. As soon as I could start to feel and move a little bit, it
Yeah.
was like go time. It was like,
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Right. It must have been
Um,
so invigorating as coming from where you had been in the beginning of all this. Now you're starting to literally get feeling back. And
mhm.
so then you mentioned that's when PT starts to intensify. What does that even look like? Because you can't
That's a
move
great
very
question.
at all. So what's happening?
Absolutely. So, um, I'm still in CHOP at this point. At
Mhm.
CHOP, which is not to specify, is not a rehab intensive hospital. Like it's
Mm.
not a hospital made for rehab. It's not inpatient.
Okay.
Um, the goal with them is to try and sit me up, literally in the bed, like move the hospital bed, the thing with the remote up, and have me not pass out. Because
What?
yeah, that is like a big goal because I have no core stability. So I can't sit up on myself at all. Like if you were
Right.
to sit me up, I would just completely
Oh
fall.
my God,
Um,
dude. That
and like,
is
I mean, think about it. Like if you, like when you're sick and you lie down for like a while and you get up and you're like woozy, you know what I mean?
yes, yes,
It's the
yes,
same idea.
totally.
It's totally the
Yeah.
same idea.
Right, right, right.
So that was like a big goal. And when I started to like able to sit up and like look around with my eyes and not pass out, like that was like huge progress in CHOP.
Wow.
Um, and the thing to get you out of like the ICU, the acute care,
Yeah.
and into the rehab hospital, because you want to make that process as fast
Right.
as possible,
Right.
is actually, it's funny enough, it's being able to go to the bathroom. Um,
Like
and like
go
literally bowels.
or
No, no,
use
no.
your
Like literally
body. Yeah.
your body can go to the bathroom.
Right.
Because I actually at this point had not had a bowel movement for 3 weeks.
Wait. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please.
You mean hadn't had one or hadn't
Literally.
consciously
Hadn't
oh,
had one. Hadn't had one. Yeah.
okay.
Um,
Wow.
so this was another part of my injury that was really fascinating for me specifically, because normally what happens is when your body's paralyzed, your muscles go relaxed, right? Your sphincters that control
Hmm.
your entrances and exits to your body relax, so everything flows through you easily. But from the beginning, mine was super tense, which
Hmm.
was a good sign originally.
Hmm.
But it was really hard for me to go to the bathroom because it didn't want to relax.
And do
So
you
it was
know
very
what that like what is the mechanism of that? What was the reason for that? Do you even know? Did they tell you or like why would
like
your body
why does your body do that?
why would a body tense up as opposed to relax? Yeah.
It's yeah, it's honestly, that is like one of the things that like
It just
nobody has any
happens
idea.
sometimes
It
to
just
some
happened to
people. Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
honestly, I've had my neurologist say that she's never seen anybody like that. And this is the head
Oh.
neurologist at CHOP, which is a great
Whoa.
hospital. So
Okay,
she says
right.
she's yeah, like it's not common. So that was
Right.
already very, very interesting when it comes to my specific injury,
Yeah.
because these
Yeah.
also there's not a lot of known about neurological injuries. So like they're
Yeah.
very personalized,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
case to case.
Yeah. All right, cool.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So going back, I had to do a bowel movement. It happened, and now I'm on my way to McGee Rehab Hospital, which is also in Philadelphia. And I get there, and basically the schedule for the day really is wake up, PT for 3 hours, 30-minute break to eat, OT, which is occupational therapy, which is like more finite movements,
Mm.
and like with your hands, anything from like picking up cups, brushing your teeth, kind of like stuff more along those lines, opposed to like getting your muscle back.
Mhm.
Um, and then I had that for 3 hours, and then I would break, and then I would have some sort of, they would call it like fun activity. Sorry, excuse me real quick.
No, you're good.
Some sort of fun activity, which would look later down the line like Wii tennis. Like literally, they would tape the Wii remote to my arm in my
Oh, wow.
wheelchair, and I would try and have to play Wii tennis. So
Wow.
like to make therapy more fun, they would do something like that.
Wow.
But it was very, very intense.
And how frustrating is that for you, that process?
Super frustrating, super frustrating. But they also, inpatient rehab hospitals are very good about making you feel very comfortable,
Mm.
because there are tons of other people around you going through the same thing. So there's like you really build a sweet sense of community
Yeah.
there. The biggest like holy fuck was when I had to go home, and then you're immediately thrown into the world that you're used to,
Yeah.
and you are not the same person.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was really,
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so how
yeah.
long are you in the rehab for?
About 5 weeks. I'm inpatient for 5 weeks.
And then you go home.
And then I get discharged because basically insurance companies, because it's all so expensive,
Yeah.
they don't want you to be there as long as you have to.
Yeah.
So they're basically looking for reasons to kick you out so they don't have to pay for
Totally.
you.
Yeah.
So I was there for as long as the insurance company was able to pay for me, which was 5 weeks for me. And then they were
Okay.
like, "You're good enough to go home."
And
So
what
then,
constitute I'm assuming there's a degree of bullshit to what they say is good enough, but what to them
absolutely,
constituted good enough for you to go home?
me able to sustain myself, and when I say sustain myself, I mean like help with my family to
Mm.
like not be a danger to myself, as in like falling
Mm.
down the steps on accident,
Mhm.
or like
Mhm.
falling and hitting my head, whatever. To be home, like I'm like safe to be home. Basically, was
Got
like
it.
the idea that I got explained to me.
Right. Okay. So when you go home, your capabilities are what now? By the time you get
Okay,
back
so
home.
this is really interesting. So going back to the McGee
Mhm.
rehab.
Mhm.
So I am in a wheelchair. The first day was super, super sad because obviously it's a total life change, and it
Mhm.
happened very quick.
Mhm.
Um, but I get my little like electric wheelchair, which was sweet. And at this point, I can move some base extremities, but meaning my arms. I can't
Yeah.
feel anything in my legs, but I can like do basic shoulder work. I can't really move any of my fingers yet, but I have enough mobility to control like the little thing on the car that makes it go
Mm.
on my wheelchair. And they start intensifying my rehab, and I'm making really good progress. And slowly, I start to feel movement in my lower extremities, like my toes. And then that's when they do this therapy. It basically they put like electric pads on you, and they stim the muscles to try and activate the mind muscle
Yeah.
connection,
Yeah.
which was really. And so yeah, they sell them like for people who have back pain, but it's like that times 100 the
Right.
intensify to move your
Yeah.
muscles, which is really cool.
How does that
And at this
feel?
point, it fucking hurts like hell. It hurts
Ah,
so much.
yeah.
But it's really cool because it moves your legs. So it's like you're moving your legs. So it's like really,
Right.
it's a really cool surreal because you're watching your body move again.
Yeah.
But it hurts. It hurts like hell.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I loved it. And at this point, I've made really good connections with my therapists. I love them to death. They were like my family.
Mhm.
So I actually, looking back now, I weirdly enjoyed my time at McGee.
Mm.
Um, because they made me feel so normal, and so like I don't know, appreciated. And also what I like the pace of my recovery was so unheard of that like they were really happy for me, so it was awesome.
Yeah, I guess that's my other
Yeah.
question. Like you're
Yeah.
recovering so fast.
Mhm.
Are are you seeing that in their faces and bodies? Like, are you understanding? Because I think to someone who is sort of attentive and picks up on shit, like you'll know
Yeah,
when someone's bullshitting you. Like, oh, good job.
absolutely.
And you'll know
Absolutely.
when someone might actually not be. And then
Yeah.
obviously I would imagine you're starting to sense the latter at the speed at which you're recovering. What are
Mhm.
people saying to you about that? They're saying we've never seen this, but like what are they actually telling you?
Yeah, so that's doctors don't bullshit, they can't.
Yeah,
The
right.
nurses
Yeah.
can,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. 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 Yeah.
So, the nurses will bullshit you and you'll be like, "You're yeah, get the fuck out of here," like, "You're
Yeah.
not." But my doctor, and my neurologist would come in and they'd be like this is fucking insane what you're like the speed of your recovery. They were like, you shouldn't be able to move or feel anything ever again, and the fact that you have movement in your toes is like they would. And every day I would be like pushing a boundary that they said I wouldn't be able to, right? Because they're telling me you're never going to do this again, you're never going to walk again, don't even put the expectation in your head because you're going to fail. I mean it's
Jeez.
not that harsh, but like
Right.
that
Right.
is
Right.
the tone, that is
They
the
don't
tone that they're
want you to
saying.
get a false hope, is basically
And
what they're
yeah,
saying. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. They don't want me to get a false hope. And every day, and yeah, so a big thing. It's called proprioception.
Mm.
It's kind of like a sixth sense that we all have. It's knowing where. Basically, the idea is knowing where your body is in space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I
Mm-hmm.
told you to close your eyes and I lifted your arm in the air above your head, you would fucking know where your arm is because
Correct.
your body's telling you the info.
Right.
So that is something that takes a while to come back, and it was coming back very rapidly for me. Like I'm talking
Mm.
weeks. It was coming
Mm.
back.
Interesting.
So yeah. So absolutely, because honestly, like the whole, what makes this story so crazy is not like that I had the injury; it's the fact that I recovered from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Does it have anything to do with your age, do you think? Or is it just totally random?
absolutely,
Okay. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah. Um, my age and the fact that I was still growing,
Hmm.
my body was much better healing at somebody who had the injury at say like 45.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
That makes sense. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, you're right by that. But I'm still the only person in the world right now that has recovered the way I have from my injury.
What?
Yeah,
The only
in the world.
person that is known to have recovered from the injury you had
Exactly.
is you.
It's me. Right. So there are people that can walk, but they have this very distinct walk.
Right. Right.
Um, that like you would be like, oh, they have some sort of disability.
Hmm.
But yeah, especially the severity of my injury, a C4 spinal cord injury is like you are dead.
Yeah.
People that have C4, like you're dead. Like it's like you're not even surviving. So the fact that I'm able to walk and run and go back to lacrosse and
Yeah.
surfing and snowboarding is yeah, it's awesome. It's super
Uh,
fascinating.
I mean, so okay, so how from when you're home then, or so yeah,
Mhm.
so when you get home, what is the state of things for you now? Like, where are you in terms of your progress?
Great question. So my goal was to walk out of the hospital, and I got to complete that goal, which was like an amazing accomplishment in my life. So
Wow.
with help, I slowly walked out of the hospital.
After 5 weeks?
After 5 weeks.
Whoa, dude.
5 weeks of being at the hospital. At this point, it was 8 weeks since the
Total.
injury.
Right. But that's
Yep.
still, that's nothing. That's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people who are inpatient for a year.
Yeah, I
And,
would
like,
imagine. I mean, with these
not a lot of
injuries,
progress.
I know a handful of people with injuries from one thing or another like this, and
For sure. Mhm.
they're you know, no reason to harp on it, but like they don't even fucking come close to where you're talking. So
Absolutely.
what? Yeah, so you're able to, with help, walk out,
Walk out of the
and
hospital,
then
yeah.
you go home, and obviously your journey back to health continues
For 2
forever.
years, yeah.
Right. Okay.
For
Yeah.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so, not to walk me through that day by day, but just generally,
Right.
like, how's that go? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I get home, and immediately I have to start outpatient therapy. Uh, so I'm not obviously not going to school. I'm getting home
Yeah.
tutored.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not like at school day by day. Like my main focus is healing. So I go to Bryn Mawr Rehab Hospital, and I'm doing their outpatient program, which is about a 20-minute drive from where I live. And so I wake up 6 a.m., drive. Therapy starts at 7. I'm at therapy from 7 to 5 p.m. And then I go home and I have exercises to do at home too. So it
Dude,
is
that's
very, very intense.
nonstop.
Nonstop.
And what is, I mean,
Nonstop.
this is probably a dumb question, but I actually
No,
don't
no,
know
no,
the
no.
answer.
No,
Why
please.
is it so relentless? What is the reason?
Because it's a great question. So the first few months of getting back to your injury is when you have the ability, because your body's still healing, to make immense progress. A lot of people make some decent amount of progress and then they plateau really heavily.
Okay. Okay.
So the idea is like they want to get me while I'm still healing. They want to try and
Oh,
get everything to work while I'm still healing.
interesting.
So that is like kind of the idea of why it's so intense right
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And at this point, like therapy is looking like, it's still very, very like minute and focusing on specific things like picking up stuff, like using my hands. So that starts to get better and better. I don't want to, like as you said, I don't want to give you like every single specific day by day thing, but yeah, but I'm slowly making progress. I'm able to. So this was pretty cool. They like have this machine where like you get in this harness and it like connects to the ceiling, and like you can practice running on it. So
Oh,
I remember
wow.
that was like a big like cool moment of being outpatient, of like remembering, like learning, because like you're learning how to walk and run again, which is
Yeah.
like the most fascinating part, because your body, like my body doesn't remember how to do it. So it's like literally I'm like an infant. Like you can picture like an infant child tripping and stumbling. That's like literally what I look like.
So I want to know how. So this is particularly interesting because you were very athletic,
Hmm.
and now are again. But like,
Thank you. Yeah.
you started before the injury. You're just like I'm sure regular carefree 14-year-old, very active, playing sports.
Abs-
Then you're starting to recover. Obviously, in your memory, it's full of you running and walking and standing and doing whatever the fuck you saw fit with your body in any given moment.
Absolutely.
What do you mean when you say your body doesn't remember? You remember, but what do you mean? When
I
you say your
remember.
yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
remember, but like my body doesn't want to listen to like, so I'm sending a signal being like, move my right leg.
yeah.
And it's going down and it's getting tripped up right here.
Okay.
And then like continuing trying to get it like literally through the nerve to it. It like doesn't want to listen all the time.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to describe. I'm
No,
sorry. I'm trying my best here. Yeah.
that's actually an amazing way to explain it. And I think because I again, like I mentioned before, when I read about shit like
Mhm.
this, I'm always
Mhm.
so tripped up on, but what does that mean? Like in terms of
Right.
how do I imagine it, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's actually a very good way of explaining it, because our bodies are one big communication system, and the brain is the
Absolutely.
center, and the spinal cord sort of like distributes that message,
Totally. Totally.
and
Absolutely.
that it's so, I think when people think about it, they're like, well, if I want to move my arm, I'm me, so all I
Mhm.
do is move my arm because
Move
that's
my
what I
arm.
want to
Totally.
do.
Totally.
But like,
Absolutely.
it's not what's happening. That's what our experience of it is, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is your brain is signaling to your body saying, hey brain, activate the part of you that moves my arm. And we don't think that way, but that's what's going on. So what you mean when you say your body's struggling to remember how it works is you're like reconnecting those things basically.
Absolutely.
Because it got
totally.
your system got so fucked up and jumbled up that
Mhm.
you're like rewiring the thing that everyone takes for granted every day of their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it into words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so,
Mhm.
and so that must be so frustrating.
Super frustrating.
Yeah.
I was and like, I'm young, I'm very confused. Like, I'm having existential crises. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Like, did I, you know what I mean? So a lot of like
Yeah.
internal, like, I also feel very guilty, like it's my fault, like I'm burdening
Oh,
my family financially.
yeah, I get
And
that. Yeah.
so a lot of guilt there. But yeah, it is super, super tough on the mental. Like I said, like I am very frustrated at the world. Because I
Mhm.
don't want to live like this. Obviously,
Mhm.
nobody preferably wants to live like that. So very
Yeah.
frustrated at the world. And then I am going to also like psychological therapy,
Mhm.
because like every day
Mhm.
for about a year and a half to
Yeah.
stay positive and like, emotionally there.
Yeah.
Because
How do you not spin out? That's a good way to not spin
totally,
out.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, and like trying to reintegrate myself into high school life
Mm.
was really fucking hard. Because I'm not the same person I was. People are treating me as if like nothing happened, but like I'm wearing a big fucking thing on my neck, and like it's super obvious. So like that was super weird. I lost some friends.
Mm.
So that was like a whole thing to try and
Yeah.
reintegrate
I mean,
myself
that's a
into my
whole
old life.
layer I hadn't even considered. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think of myself as someone in school anymore, but
right.
when I think about an experience like this or going through it, I don't think about the added layer of life at school on top of all of this shit. I mean,
Totally.
high school especially is so petty sometimes and so
Oh,
trivial and so stupid. But
absolutely.
it's your life. It's the only life you
Hmm.
know, and that's
Hmm.
how it is. So,
Hmm.
so you said you lost friends. Do you think it's because people stopped knowing how to treat you because of what happened to you?
Um, no, I wouldn't say that. I always had a great support. I want to make it clear, like my community
Hmm.
was really amazing to me.
Hmm.
Through my whole thing, they raised a lot of money for
Hmm.
me. They were awesome.
Hmm.
Like around my like high school, and the community
Yeah,
was awesome. But
great.
like for me personally, I lost some friends in the sense of I had a lot of friends that were like on the lacrosse team and like on the
Right,
basketball team that like
right.
that's the was what linked us.
Yes.
And since I wasn't doing that anymore, I kind of like lost touch with them, if that
You
makes
just
sense.
lost friends because by way of the fact that your injury made you miss life, that was the thing that was facilitating the connection between you and these people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Got it.
But
Got
like
it.
my tight homies, my like they weren't like fuck you, you're not moving, so I'm not
Right,
gonna be friends
right,
with you. Like
right.
they were. I had a great support group. I don't want to make it seem like I was neglected.
No,
Like not at all.
I actually
Yeah.
was asking more almost like I could see, especially kids being like spooked by what you went through and not knowing where to even look when they see you or like,
No, absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we
Yeah.
all have that experience. Like you see
Yeah.
somebody in a wheelchair and you kind of get nervous. You don't really know how to
Yeah.
treat.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely happened. So a lot of like their defense mechanism was just like ignore it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right, right,
So like
right.
that was definitely a little like weird, especially because I was
Yeah.
like, you guys know me. Like you've known me since kindergarten. Like
Right. Yeah.
I'm me. I just can't move yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fucking A. Okay, yeah, keep going then. So once you're like at what point is your body back enough where you're like, oh,
Walking.
I'm like me again. I'm
Okay,
just
that
not
is a great
fully
question.
me. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Not fully me was probably my middle of my sophomore year of high school. So this started my first week of freshman year, so say a year and
Mm.
a half.
Hmm.
And this is where it gets. Sorry, no, go.
No, go. I was gonna say what is that like? Yeah.
Yeah, so this was super fucking weird. So I get to the point where I'm gonna try and go back to one class a day in my actual high school,
Hmm.
in a wheelchair.
Hmm.
And then I tried that for 1 week, and then COVID hits. So
Oh
that
my
fucked
god,
everything up.
dude.
And
Oh
this
my
is
god.
my high school. I didn't have a normal high school year until my senior year, so I basically missed all of high school.
Yeah.
Um, but this is where it got really interesting because that got in the way of me going to therapy, and that
Yeah.
what was a problem.
Oh god. Yeah.
Because obviously, we all went through COVID. It fucking sucks for everybody. But it shut down like specific resources that I was in literally like need of.
Yeah.
So that was
So many
very tough
people
to
are in need
maintain.
of too. It's not, I mean, obviously
Absolutely.
you're the center of your own universe. Everybody is of their own, but like fucking
Right.
A, scale that out. Like that's so many people who
So
need
many
shit
people.
and they can't
Totally.
go. I mean, that's anyway, I don't want to get into that, but like,
No.
what
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it
yeah.
like for you? Yeah.
It was very hard. Like, this is what my mom and I talk about all the time. My mom is a fucking angel, God bless
Mhm.
her. Um, but she, she was staying with me in my hospital room when she didn't have to, and there wasn't even another bed. She was sleeping on
Mm.
the little uncomfortable couch in my hospital room every night. And if I was going through this through COVID, we always talked about, like, she wouldn't be able to do that, so I would have been do
Yeah.
that
No,
myself.
she wouldn't have been
So, like,
allowed
having the
to.
support group was
God.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm
So
sorry, I got distracted. Where were we?
what happens when for you and your
Mhm.
rehab and all that when COVID hits, what happens to you? How do you
Yeah, so these, like, outpatient rehab hospitals are trying their absolute best to, still see me in person, but it's just tough because, like, there's a lot of people. It's not just, neurology injuries go for anything from strokes to brain injuries to all of it, and, like, these people can be susceptible, so it was very tough navigating that. So I had a lot of, like, just take home exercises, and
Mm,
we would do, like, I never really did, like, Zoom therapy, but, like, I guess you could call it, like, a version of, like, it's just like, asynchronous therapy,
mhm, mhm, yeah,
where it's just mostly me doing it in my house.
yeah,
But luckily, I got the bulk of me back prior to
yeah.
that, so I was very, very lucky to have that not affect me too much.
And so the bulk of you are you walking sometimes? Are you
Mhm,
where are you
mhm.
physically?
I am walking, because my ego at this point is like, I'm not fucking sitting in a wheelchair anymore.
Mhm.
So my ego was kinda getting in the way of me, but I would walk for, like, max probably 5 minutes, and then
Mm,
I would be super fatigued and I have to sit down.
okay.
And, like, I'm talking, like, literally on a treadmill, like, think about, like, working out, but it's walking.
Right, right.
And, like, but it's, like, that intense.
You're just so taxed after 5
So
minutes.
tasked. Absolutely, because I was not moving for 4
Yeah,
weeks. So the
yeah,
muscle atrophy, uh, I'm 6'1", and
yeah.
I weighed 90 pounds at one point. Like,
Whoa,
I was
dude.
bones, like, I was bones. Super skinny. So, like, my muscles literally had no, mass on them. So, like, building back that muscle mass was very hard, especially
And
with a
that's
neurological injury.
so that's just 4 after 4 weeks, you're already there.
Your muscle just eats itself totally. Yeah.
Wow, dude, that is wild.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Super wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so then your COVID hits, you're sort of
Mhm.
more isolated than you were up to that point,
Mhm.
but you're still doing the rehab. I'm sure you're still
Correct.
again, it's like that feedback loop where you're getting better, which makes you want to rehab more, which makes you more optimistic, which makes you more likely to get better quicker. And so that's all sort of going in the right direction entirely for you. Then
Mhm.
what is that like from there to where you're like, you mentioned you're back in the lacrosse. When
Mhm.
when do you start thinking, oh, holy shit, I can maybe do that again?
That's a great question. So, at this point, it's, like, end of my sophomore year, probably summer going into junior year. I'm at the point where the lines between therapy and, like, just working out are starting to get
Mhm.
more and more blurred, if that makes
Mm.
sense. Like, I'm
Yeah, it
starting to kind of
does. Yeah.
transition
Yeah.
back into, like, actively being able to lift weights,
Mhm.
um, to put more muscle mass on, and this is when I was like, because then I started running again and, like, cutting a little bit, like, cutting as in, like, moving, like, diagonally
Yeah.
this way,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Well, that doesn't feel so terrible."
Yeah.
Um, and that's when I had the idea. Well, I mean, I always had the dream of playing lacrosse again, like, even ever since the first week,
Yeah.
but, not until, like, probably summer going into my junior year was like, I could actually maybe realistically do this.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when I was, like, meeting with my, neurologist and my neurosurgeon, and they were like, "Absolutely fucking do not play lacrosse again."
Really?
Because of, yeah, from the idea of, like, I'm statistically way more susceptible to getting another spinal cord
Mm.
injury
Sure. Yeah.
than, say, you or somebody who hasn't had
Yeah.
one.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and my body does not work the same as, your average 18-year-olds. So they were like,
Sure.
"We do not condone you doing this. You're probably gonna get hurt again. If it's not that as intense, you'll you'll be fucked up."
Right.
But I didn't listen to them, and I kept working out, and I tried out my senior year, and I made the team, obviously, because my coach was very supportive. He knew my whole injury, so, like, he wasn't going to cut me or anything. But
Right.
I
Right.
still had to earn my playing time, which was very hard to do. And my team was very supportive of me. Um, and I am very, very blessed to be able to play lacrosse again.
So are you still in high school?
I'm a freshman in college now.
Okay, where are you going to school?
I go to the University of Vermont. I go to UVM up in Burlington.
Wow. Okay, so you're away from home now for the first time.
Yes, yes, I'm away from home.
And I mean, again, that's your age made this a whole other layer of kind of the experience that most adults wouldn't have had the experience you had. Nor
Mhm.
would have most kids, because if a kid breaks their neck, they don't get better and then leave the house. Like, what was
Right.
you specifically have the unique experience
Mhm,
of getting better and then moving out of your home for the very first time? Like, what
mhm.
is your life like now? Like, what are you up to? What does it work? How does it work now for
It's a
you?
good question. So, I there's definitely still some like when it comes to like bowel and bladder stuff, like there's definitely some still things that like my habits probably look a little bit different than everybody else's.
Hmm.
So in that aspect, it's still a little bit different, but for the most part, like I'm doing great. My older brother, we're very very close. He also goes here. He's a junior, so I have that
Mm.
outlet. I have that kind of like source of a homey feel, so I
Hmm.
can kind of escape my dorm if I want to and go hang out with him, which is awesome.
That is good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that definitely helps the transition. But for me personally, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world by any means. I definitely have struggled a little bit with my dorm situation and
Yeah.
like how that looks for like my habits of life
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
get that for sure.
yeah.
But I mean, tell me, is it like, I mean, I'm not saying this for any reason, not just because I'm talking to you face to face, but like, I think anybody watching this will see what I mean when I say, like, you don't come off like the average 18-year-old. Like, you don't
Oh,
seem like other 18-year-olds that I know. And I think anybody else who also knows some people at that age, they would agree in comparison to you. Obviously, that has something to do with the experience that you've had. Like, what in your eyes do you feel different than people your age, or do you just feel like another kid that is like, yeah, that happened to me, life happens to people, this is happens to be mine? Or do you think like, yeah, and then when I say special, I don't mean like you're greater than, but I mean
I
like
know. Yeah,
unique, do you feel that?
absolutely.
Or yeah.
So, first of all, that's a great question. So, thank you for asking. And absolutely, I feel like I'm 35 times my age.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
I don't have many friends my age,
yeah.
just from the fact that we're just in different places in life. It does truly feel like who I am has aged significantly more
Right.
than my physical years that I've lived.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, absolutely. Like and I've struggled with this a lot because like through high school, like the end of high school and now, like I don't get the same enjoyment that my peers do of going out to the bars and
Totally.
going to
Yeah.
these house parties and like drinking. I mean, obviously it has its time and its place, but like
Yeah.
I am not at all in the same place with my friends. So I definitely had a sense of like embedding myself into the community of like just being around kids is
Yeah.
definitely I've struggled with
Yeah.
a lot. And I do tend to make naturally and be more comfortable with people that are older.
Yeah.
Like my brother, I'm like best friends with him and all his friends who are 23.
Yeah.
So I definitely like connect more with people who are more mature
Yeah. I
for
mean,
sure. For sure.
that makes complete sense. I figured that the answer might be something like that, but
Hmm.
as you get older, you will find that that will even out, because obviously almost no one will have gone through your exact experience. But by the
Hmm.
time, you're in your mid 20s, 30s for sure, everyone will have suffered immensely one way or another, whether it's just
Yeah.
in their mind or whatever the
Hmm.
fuck through trauma externally.
Hmm.
Like, everybody's got their own bag of shit. But yeah, usually when you're 18, there's nothing bad's happened to you yet. So you have no
Yeah.
reason to feel older or wiser or more lived in.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Uh,
Absolutely.
but yeah, that's why I ask, because it's when I think of myself at your age, I was like, I might have been more mature than other people my age, but not in the way that your lived experience
Hmm.
has
Yeah.
sort of
That's
like formed your mind, you
for
know?
sure. I like to say wise. Like that's like
Yeah.
I feel like the word that best describes it. I am like wiser past my years.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. That
in
makes
the
sense.
sense of like a life regard,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, Before we totally wrap up, I'm curious. about one of the very first things we spoke about, your out of body experience. I've spoken with a few people who have had them, who
Hmm.
one man in particular whose life was completely, I don't want to say derailed, but set on
Hmm.
on a different path based on his out of body experience. Uh,
Hmm.
what do you remember how you said all of a sudden at one moment it ended and you woke up in the hospital? Do you remember there
Hmm.
being an end to that experience, or was it just it it ended and you snapped it? Like where I'm not expecting a beginning, middle, and end like it's some fucking movie,
Yeah.
but like
Right.
how does it it's a two-part question actually. How does it wrap up in the literal experience that you had of it? And then
Okay.
also, where do you place that in when you think about your life and yourself? Because for a lot of people, those things change them intrinsically and forever. Not
Hmm.
everyone, obviously, but
Hmm.
like a lot of people look at their out of body experience or their near death NDE, their near death
Hmm.
experience, and they look at that as like a turning point in their life. I'm just curious as to how it ended literally in your mind for you, and then
Hmm.
how you where you place that in your own life presently.
Great questions. It's a very brief memory, is
Hmm.
like from my physical memory in my brain that I can
Yeah.
recall in
Right.
my
Right.
mind's eye. It I'm looking, I feel very comfortable. I have like this wisdom of like I passed. Um, and that is it. It is a very short clip that I can recall. Like a few frames almost, if you will.
Yeah. And do you
Um,
think you died? Like, is that what you think
I
in your mind?
I knew it.
You knew
I
it.
knew I
Okay.
died.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew
Got it.
it. It was just
Yeah.
like this feeling I was like, I passed.
All right.
Which is actually very interesting because I have since talked to people that can connect to um, higher beings, if you will.
Sure.
And they said that I chose to come back here. So
Mm.
that's when I really, really decided to reach out because I don't know why else I would be here if not to share this story
Ah, I see.
so yeah, I do feel like I have a big purpose
Yeah.
into this. So that's how it physically ended.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the second part of your, did I answer the second part of your question or could we could
You
talk about
kind of
that?
you touched on it, but I'm curious, like
Oh yeah.
the where how you think how you think of that experience now, what you
Mhm.
think it meant. You kind of did answer it, but just to like hit it right
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on the
No,
head, like
please.
what do
Yeah.
you think that was, and also do you think there's meaning to it beyond
Mm.
just the literal experience of it?
I 100% think there's meaning
You
to it.
do, yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know why else I would have to go through something this crazy if it wasn't for a reason. And I don't, and this is something I struggled with because I don't know what it is yet. I don't know why I had this happen to me. And I have this very just like not gut feel. It's more than a gut feeling. I just like know that this like there's a reason that I went through this, and I don't know what that is yet.
So
I haven't figured it out.
you don't ascribe like the chaotic randomness of life on Earth. You think this is
I think this is meant to be. I think that
right.
I was gonna go through this regardless.
Oh, I see.
Um, I
I
think
see.
this has meaning. I think this has meaning for sure.
And was that true all along, or is that only true as you reflect upon it for you?
Only true as I reflect upon it.
Uh,
Absolutely.
uh,
As I've gotten better and better, I at first totally described it like life just fucking bent me over and fucked
uh-huh,
me.
uh-huh.
Sorry if that's too vulgar, by the
No,
way.
no way. No,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
sure you watch me enough. You know that I'm
Yeah.
very
Oh, absolutely. Don't
careful
worry.
with my
Yeah.
words. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, but yeah, totally just screwed me. But as I've gotten better and better and realized like and been told like what you have gone through, especially recovering
Mhm.
is like once in a like I said in my description, like once in a world, not just lifetime recovery. I was like, oh, this has high meaning that I am not aware of yet.
So to you, basically, this sort of singularity of the fact, the uniqueness of the fact that you survived this tells
Hmm.
you that there is meaning or purpose or whatever word you want to use in it.
Yeah.
It wasn't about it happening and then the path back. It's more that looking back, reflecting now that you can see it for what it is, you believe, looking at the image or the experience as an entirety, you believe that there's some meaning or purpose or whatever. Not that you know exactly what it is yet, but that's what you believe.
I do. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah,
I have a very overwhelming feeling that
yeah.
this is meant to either help other people through
Mm,
my knowledge that I've gained and wisdom,
mhm.
or even if it's not for anybody else, and it's just for me, I do
Yeah.
still feel like this is a big part of my life and who I am and my story to this incarnation
I
of
mean, yeah. I mean,
life. Yeah.
it is if nothing else, it is a fucking insane story. But
Yeah.
also, yeah, it's full of meaning, even just on the surface, it's there for you to take meaning from it. It's a very
Mhm.
powerful story. It's, 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 it's also just incredibly entertaining. Like it's crazy that this happened to anyone, you know?
Super crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it's amazing. I'm happy you reached out and wanted to share it with me on on the show.
Yeah.
It's it's crazy. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we hop off or anything like that
Um,
you want to talk about?
yeah, yeah. So, I guess one more thing I guess I
Yeah,
can
go for it.
mention is my mom is actively writing. My mom's an English teacher.
Oh,
She's writing a book about it,
oh wow.
through her lens and her experience.
Yeah.
So it's not out yet. It's not published yet, but you guys, if you are interested to learn more kind of about, and also my mom has Facebook posts, so her account is public.
What
Um,
is your mom's name so everybody
her
listening
name
knows?
is Karen Miller.
Okay.
I think her Facebook is Karen Miller 339.
Okay.
Um, I can email you that if that's
Yeah,
wrong, and
email
you
it,
can
add
edit
it.
it. Yeah, yeah,
We'll add it in the
yeah,
show notes and everything. But
yeah,
send us. I mean, we're in touch now. You have our email.
for sure.
We have yours. Send us videos, whatever you have,
Would
pictures
love to.
from your
Yeah,
experience, and we'll add it
yeah,
uh, to the episode whenever it drops.
yeah, yeah. And another thing I want to say is, between you and Chris, you guys got me through some fucking hard times in the hospital. So I just wanted to say you guys are great. You touch a lot of lives, so I appreciate it.
Oh man, well that's very cool to hear, especially from you.
Yeah.
I can send it back to you as well. I see you got the dangly earring. That makes me proud because
Oh, yeah.
not many of us have them, and so respect for that. Yeah,
I appreciate it. Yeah, I would
yeah.
be lying if I said you weren't an influence on it. So,
Hell yeah,
oh
dude.
yeah, oh yeah.
That as good as this conversation was, that's been my favorite part to know that I've passed on my dangly earringness to you.
Oh, I
That's the
love
best
it.
part.
Yeah,
All right, man.
absolutely.
Well,
Damn,
take
it
care of
was very,
yourself.
very nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
likewise, dude. I'll talk to you soon.